back, and joining me today in the studio, I've got Robin Church, our salon and spa manager. Thanks for being with us today. And we've got a special guest, Pat Meredith, who lives in Sundial. And Pat is here. She's going to be talking a little bit about quilts, which is going to be a lot of fun because we have some quilt activities coming up this weekend with a big quilt show. But first, let me just remind you that we've got exercise classes throughout the day today that you want to be aware of. There is a yoga fit in the exercise studio that's going to be happening in the afternoon at 3:45. We also have a bend, breathe, and balance, which is very important. That's a morning class. And then there's also aqua exercises throughout the day. To check on fitness classes, the best way to find that information is by going to your weekly reminder or going on shellpoint.net. All of the classes and activities for today are listed there. There's also your daily reminder on Channel 14, so don't forget you can check it there as well. So let's get started and talk a little bit about the quilt show that's coming up this weekend. That's very exciting.
We're looking forward to it. Hope everybody else is.
We really are. And now that's going to be on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, correct? What are the hours for the quilt show going to be?
On Saturday, it's from 10 to 4, Sunday from 12 to 4, and Monday from 10 to 2.
Great. So you've got your hands full. So tomorrow's Friday. I guess you guys will be setting up, getting ready.
Yes.
And where's the quilt show going to be held?
It's going to be in the Grand Cypress Room at the Woodlands this year.
Excellent.
Different from where we've been before.
Ah, okay. So people need to know that this weekend they need to go to the Woodlands. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday they'll be able to see all the beautiful quilts. And I imagine that there are quite a few for them to see.
There are over 100. I think there's 130 some, I think.
That's exciting. And are all of those made by hand by residents here?
Most
hand
of
or
them,
machine, of course.
Yeah, hand or machine. Most of them are made by our residents here. There may be a couple that a mother made, or they are vintage that they've been handed down through the generations. So we've got a couple of those that are very
Those
special.
would be beautiful to see.
Yeah. Some of them have show their age, just like we do, but it works.
Excellent. Well, you've brought a couple of things today to tell us about. Why don't you show us some of the items that you brought with us today?
Okay. Most people think quilts started in America. That is not true. Quilts came from all over the world. But even in the days when they had the armor people, they wore quilts or stuff underneath to show that if an arrow came through, it was stopped, even though because
a little bit of padding
to protect themselves and the other.
I see.
So quilts, actually, the word comes from a Latin word which means stuffed sack. Oh. So it is a 3-layer thing. You have to have 3 layers, and this is what is the example of 3 layers. This is a quilt a little one, but it has the backing. We start with the top, then you have the batting or wadding in English terms, and the backing. This has been pieced by machine. It can be quilted either by hand or by machine.
So this is a traditional quilt then that has the 3 layers.
That's a traditional.
And that's the one that most of us are most familiar with.
Most of you are familiar with that. But we have 3 really categories in quilts. We have what is called the whole cloth quilt, which is a background fabric, and then with just stitching you make the design.
Now, how do they get it to be slightly elevated like that?
The batting underneath, and where you quilt it, it puffs it out.
Excellent. So this is where you create the design, and that's what makes the pattern.
Right.
Interesting.
Now
this is artistic.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this one could be a whole cloth quilt too, because you're not doing any piecing or applique. You find a piece of fabric you like, you stitch around the design that's already there. That would be a whole cloth quilt also.
Okay.
The second category, and this happens to be Pat Bay's quilt, is applique, where you have a background and then you put your design on top. And it's usually done by hand in old times. In our new machines, you can put it on by machine. But Pat loves to do hand sewing. And
Isn't this beautiful? And it's such an intricate design. I love how she chose the dark fabric with the flowers, and then it's against the light background, so the design really pops.
It does.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well done, Pat.
And this one is like the first one I showed you, but you can't see the batting in it. And this is a technique that comes from the traditional, which is piecing, called bargello. So within each category, you have different stitches.
Now, this, I'm a little intrigued. Why is it in this shape? Is this a wall hanging?
Yes, this is a wall hanging.
All right, and it has very much an Asian influence here. You
Right.
see the Asian flowers, and of course the colors are very much indicative of Asian art. And then you've got what looks like a very modern flame stitch pattern running through here. So that's very intriguing. So quilts really can be works of art. They're
Yes.
utilitarian, of course. They keep
They
us warm at
started out
night,
that way,
but that is really a beautiful wall hanging.
Now, the third category within piece quilts is what we call the Victorian crazy quilt.
All right, that sounds like my kind of quilt.
That sounds like it.
There we go.
And it's usually made out of fancy fabrics, velvet and velveteen and silks and satins and so forth. And then you put your, this was to show how good you were going to be as a housewife, because you had learned your stitches in school.
Oh.
But anyway, you design it the way you want. You don't quilt this one. You tie it. And you here, if you look on the front, you see the little backing, the little thing here, and the ties on here.
So that keeps those three layers
That keeps those three.
together,
Now
but it
this-
doesn't affect the pattern.
That's right. Now this is called a Victorian quilt, crazy quilt. It's really a comforter because it's tied. Anytime you have tied, it's a comforter. When it's quilted, somebody said, "What's the difference?" I said, "A lot of hours." A lot of hours.
Well, you intrigue me though when you say not only, I always thought a crazy quilt was just all the random shapes of the patches, but you're saying there's a variety of stitches.
All these stitches here are all, you look on it.
They're all different.
They're all different, and now they have machines that do this now. And you really have to look carefully, but originally it was all done by hand. And
That is quite an example of someone's ability with sewing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you see all the different little designs. There's even some lace work here. And, although this might not be called lace. I'm trying to remember if that's embroidery or
that's bobbin lace.
bobbin lace. But that's a wonderful example. So these are
No,
all...
that isn't. It's tatting. Excuse me,
Tatting.
tatting. That's
Okay.
tatting.
All right. So these are great examples of some of the things that we'll be seeing this weekend.
Right.
Now, what do you have
Now,
there?
these are battings. Originally, quilts were for comfort. And they were anything you had, leftover garments and so on. It was either cotton, these still have the seed in it, little things, or it was wool. But you see, these will pull apart if they're not. Now we have new fabric and stuff that you can use. You don't have to quilt as closely together. You can get it done quicker and so forth. But
And it
it's
makes a smoother quilt, not quite as lumpy, bumpy.
That's
maybe.
right. That's why, remember the old quilts would, once you wash them, all that cotton would
Ball
go to
up.
one side. Right? So,
That's
but
right.
we now quilt primarily just for artistic. We use fabric as paints.
Right.
And it used to be all utilitarian. Now it's to show our interests and so forth.
Well, and you know, I made a baby quilt for my son and daughter-in-law when they were expecting my first grandchild. And notice I said my first grandchild as if I owned it. But anyway, I was so excited. And what I used were I had saved the baby clothes for my two sons when they were little. And so I divided those into two because I'm counting on my other son and daughter-in-law to come through with the grandchild at some point.
Don't hold your breath.
I'll go ahead and get started on it now. That'll be an encouragement. But it meant so much to me to be using these scraps of fabric that were recognizable. I remembered my son wearing these and cutting them up and then putting them into a quilt. And I just made a small quilt that, you know, they could put the baby on to play on the floor or something like that.
It tells a story.
It does, and it was a very special time for me and my daughter-in-law to share.
Sure.
So,
Very good.
anyway, well, that is a wonderful display, and we're looking forward to coming this Saturday, Sunday, and Monday down to the Woodlands to see what you guys have put together. I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful show.
We hope so.
Yes,
We're
and
planning on
residents
it.
will definitely enjoy that. Now, coming up later, we're going to be talking about makeup, and I've got Robin here who brought in a couple of show and tells that she can maybe just tell us about a little bit. And we'll move these so we don't get makeup on them.
no.
That'd be a
Okay.
disaster.
Especially this crazy quilt.
It'll just be a little crazier.
crazier.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the products that you brought today.
Well, these are
Here, I'll hold
both
one.
Jane Iredale products.
Okay.
And this is specifically formulated for men. Because a lot of times as men get older, their hair becomes a little sparser on top, and it reveals that scalp to possible sun damage.
Oh, so they need a little something on the rooftop.
Right.
Okay. All right. So how do they use a product like this?
So this is just, it's a powder. It comes with its own little,
Applicator?
right. And you just kind of put a little powder on, and you just dab it on. And it dries, and it's a matte finish.
Okay.
So there won't be anything shiny up there, nothing sparkly, and it has an SPF of 20.
You know, it's so important here in Florida. If we don't protect our skin, and as we get older, sun damage can turn into serious skin disease. And
Yes.
so I do think the men need to be wearing hats. They need to be taking care of covering up the skin that's on their heads and that sort of
Right.
thing. Tops of their ears.
Right.
Those are very important. You could even maybe dab a little bit on your nose. You know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
even though I know they might think of that's makeup and men don't wear makeup, it really isn't makeup. This is a skin protector.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And all of Jane Iredale's makeup is for skincare. It's
Okay.
skincare makeup.
Okay.
It's not just makeup.
Right, right. So these are really skincare products.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
they could get these at the salon. And tell me a
Yes.
little bit about this item.
This was Jane's first product that kind of launched her career 20-something years ago. And this was formulated for dermatologists specifically. And this was the only product she had. This is her amazing base loose powder. This also has a sunscreen, and it's also a foundation. And what you do is you just loosely put this on with a brush, and then you set it with a hydrating mist. So it finishes very dewy looking and not dry and cakey like some powders.
I think I might need to try that. I don't want to be dry and cakey.
Yeah,
I want
you
to be
wanna be-
dewy.
yes.
That sounds so much better.
I know. As we get older, we don't want to be dry and cakey. We want to be dewy. It just looks healthier.
Well, you know something? I'm going to have to come in for some serious tips at the salon. And we should remind people that there are 2 salons for them to choose from here at Shell Point. Of course, we have the popular Island Salon, which provides all of the different services. And then tell us a little bit about the new salon.
And then we also have the Arbor Salon.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
So 3.
and that's a nice little location too. And then we have our newest location, which is Sea Grape Salon and Spa, out at the club, which is just absolutely beautiful. That is where we have our makeup. It's just not practical to have a makeup display at every location.
Sure, of course.
But we've got some great bus transportation out there, so it's very easy to come out. All our makeup consultations are absolutely complimentary. There is no obligation to purchase anything. We just really want to help people and help everybody look their best. You look your best, you feel your best.
That's right. Well, thanks for joining us today, ladies. We appreciate you being here. It was very interesting to hear about the salon and what you're doing there, and especially thank you for bringing all those examples of quilts. I know all of us are going to want to come out to the Woodlands this
Hope
weekend
so.
to see
We
the
wanna
show.
be proud.
Well,
Very
good luck with
interesting.
that, and I know it's going to be a huge success. Thank you for your hard work. Well, folks, that's what we have today in the studio. We've got some stories coming up for you to enjoy, and we appreciate you joining us today. Coming up later, there'll be more on makeup at the Sea Grape Salon.